Okay, so my first problem with James Cameron's Avatar is that they made the Na'vi actually magical. The blue people are actually magical, okay? So, since the planet has this like semi-alive neural network and they have like psychic people can make psychic connections with the animals and the plants, this really cheapens the analogy to, real human indigenous people being attacked by imperialists, which is like probably the most important message they could bring, the most important issue they could talk about in that movie, right? Real people are not magical, right? Whether you're indigenous or not. And by making the Navi in the end have actual magic, it really cheapens it and maybe even contributes. Since people watch the movie, probably mostly whatever non-indigenous people watch these movies and they associate the Navi with indigenous people, makes them maybe think, and this is the bad thing, makes them think indigenous people are magical, like the Navi, which is definitely not a good thing, right? And they kind of do the same thing with the language. They like because of there's a certain scene where a scientist is like talking about the Navi language and he's like, this means this, but it's so much deeper than when we say it. And it's like, there are people who say the same thing about Japanese where, natsukashi means nostalgic, but it's so much more deeper than just nostalgic, and that's just not true, right? That's just not true. You can say natsukashi to be, you can say it in a cheap way or in a really deep way. It's not just deeper. And so, Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar probably contributes to people thinking, indigenous languages must be like deeper than English and French. They must be magical. And that just, exoticizes actual indigenous people in a really bad way. And I've met some people who sort of feel that way about indigenous people, whether they're talking about Australians or Americans, and it's just like, they have such a innate natural connection to the land, and that's actually dehumanizing to them to say that they're so different from the rest of us. Anyways, that's the first problem. My second problem is that they made the bad guys servants of like this unnamed corporation, and they did that instead of making the bad guys serve like a country on Earth that's trying to take over this other planet. And that was a really bad decision in my books, and it sort of makes a little bit of sense, but it was just cowardly because historically, yes, there have been instances of corporations. Think about the East India Company in the 1700s. Think about Coca-Cola, within the past 50 years, which has hired mercenaries in South America, right? So, there have been examples of companies doing this, but they're always doing it really. I mean, the East India Company was doing it on behalf of a country, and Coca-Cola really was kind of doing that on behalf of the U.S. So, in my opinion, the human soldiers shouldn't have just been these generic men with American accents. They should have, the people who wrote that movie should have had the courage to actually put like American flags on their shoulders, like all those soldiers, like like U.S. soldiers do today. So it was a bit cowardly of them to not do that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.